Welcome to another fast and fun video here in freezing Gloucestershire. Absolutely so cold this weekend. But we're here and I'm here to tell you about why I'm selling this, my Skoda Fabia vRS SE, the special edition from 2007. Having only bought it in the spring about 9 months ago, I've owned and run this car, and I want to give you why I've decided the time has come for me to sell and move on. And it is not because I haven't enjoyed my time. We've done a lot over the 9 months. We've packed in a lot of miles and entertainment and memories throughout 2023. But I think the time has come now, even though it's never great selling at this time of year in the deepest, coldest, darkest winter months. But the time has come, and in this video I'm going to tell you why. And the fun about this car was I never even intended to buy it. And I can thank, really, my youngest son, Archie. At the start of the year, that was his car. He wanted to move from his EP2 Civic Sport to a VRS. And we were in the hunt for one, and this came up relatively local to where we live. And when we looked at it, it was too good, really, for Archie. Archie wanted to modify it, he wanted to change it, he wanted to make it his car, and so he was going to pass on it. And I looked at it and thought, this has been owned since new. It's done reasonable mileage, it's got full service history, it's unmodified, and the condition, I'm not sure if the condition comes out fully in this video, but it was in exceptional condition, especially I think for Fabia VRSs that tend to be used and used hard. So a bit of an impulse buy, and the rationale for that, because I was starting to do quite a bit of mileage for my job. I wanted something that could do the MPG, etc., and so I bought it. And it's been a brilliant adventure throughout the period, but the time has come. So why am I selling it? So it was a real head over heart decision, this move. Head tells you why would I sell it, because it was so good in so many areas. If we start off from a reliability point of view, over 100,000 miles on the clock, you do expect a few niggles, and largely nothing. Well, one issue that I've encountered for the whole 9 months, and that was the window motor in the front passenger's motor went, so that had to be stripped, new motor put in, new mechanism with wire, etc. And that was done. Not very expensive, and that got fixed. Other than that, the only other two expenditures on the car were consumables. The alloys, I got them refurbished because they were tired and worn and marked, and they came up really nicely in this anthracite colour. And then the third thing was two tyres, and just the two front tyres. It was sold and ran it for much of the year on Uniroyal rain sports. Not a massive fan, to be truthful. I think there's better all-round tyres for hot hatches. I've gone with Tail Proxies now, the two new ones on the front, but they've only been on a matter of a few weeks, so I've probably not had long enough really to see if that's going to make much of a difference. But other than that, it's done 9,000 miles in 9 months, so it's been probably about 1,000 miles a month, used really well across a varied amount of roads as well. Fuel consumption. So I've managed the fuel. I've found with regard to fuel consumption that on average I've been getting sort of 50 to 55 mpg. A lot of the forums are talk around 60, 70. I've never got anywhere near that. The trip computer says that at times, but reality is much less. But still, 15 miles to the gallon, regardless of how you drive. So when I've driven it really hard, I think the worst I ever saw was about 48, 49. The best, being careful on the motorway, eking up into the mid-50s. And that's doing it the traditional way, pump to pump, doing the mileage in between with a calculator to work it out accurately, rather than the computers, which I find, certainly for this period in the 2000s, are not necessarily as accurate. But it's still, what's that? The next best car in my garage is probably the Megane. They're on a run, careful, low 30s, so it's at least 50, 60% better than my next best car. So that is not to be knocked at all. Practicality. Although it's not a big 5-door hatch, it is a 5-door. You have got the rear doors. It does give you some sort of flexibility with rear passengers. You've got the folding rear seats, as most hatches do have. So it's been used. I've had my bike in there. We've had all sorts of stuff in the back. It really is that size that it makes best use of what it has. And then the other real thing that my head says is the engine, is that PD130, the 1.9 TDI engine with its 230 pound-foot of torque. It is really a great, perky engine for everyday driving. It gives you that. It's not a fast car, it's a modestly quick car, but it's enough for day-to-day driving, and especially because it's driven really in that torque band that's low in the revs, that 3,500 revs. It gives it a really good pull just in this standard form. So those are the reasons that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But why am I selling it? Because of what my heart is telling me. You see, deep down, for as good as the good points were with the vRS, it just wasn't focused enough as a pure driver's car. And that is a little bit unfortunate at times, I suppose. I'm comparing it to some really, really great cars. The Skoda STI, the Megane RS, the 182. So I've got some really good cars that it sits around. But I just found it lacking. The tendency when you started to push on at 8 and 9/10, the understeer. And I'm hoping that some sharper Toyo proxies at the front might help with that initial bite. There's a few probably suspension changes you could do, anti-roll bars, etc., just to try to get that turning. But ultimately, you've got a heavy diesel in a relatively light hatch up front, over the front axle. And I just feared that you're just still going to get understeer when really, really pushed. The performance was good for everyday driving, but if you really wanted to get into that 8 or 9 out of 10 performance, which I did at times, and which did induce a bit of understeer, you just had to back off and back down to sort of 6 or 7/10 is where the vRS sounds best. And when you start pushing on with the engine, those revs, it's not a particularly nice sounding diesel unit anyway. That can be improved, and Archie's shown how that can be improved when he's modified his vRS. But in standard format, it still sounds a little bit agricultural, a little bit unrefined. And it doesn't help that the vRS is probably not as built as quite as well as I was expecting a VAG product to be built. The sound deadening, I think, is quite limited, and that's probably why the diesel clatter is quite intrusive into the cabin. And especially on longer journeys, and when you start to really push on into those higher revs at 4,500 revs, it's a place that the engine doesn't feel comfortable at. It feels better at that sort of 2,000 or 3,000 RPM. And on the build quality itself, again, when you shut the doors, they don't shut with a sort of a Germanic thud, or even, dare I say, a Renault thud. It's very tinny, it's very rattly. You just think, oh, is something else going to fall off? It's just not quite as good as I was actually expecting. And that lack of, I suppose, love, it's that thing that cars get you. They get you in a position that you've enjoyed it or you've not enjoyed it, and you move on to the next car. But some cars get you and they grab you and they say, do you know what? This makes a good place. This takes me to a good place. It serves up good memories. I want future memories. And I really don't want to have to sell this car. And some cars get you like that. And the perfect example for me is my old early 90s Mark 1 MX-5. That's a car that was, again, cheap as chips, not particularly fast, but it got you, it grabs you, and it says, do you know what? I'm giving you something. It's one of those cars that on a Sunday, puts a smile on your face. It gives you excitement. It gives you a thrill. And I didn't feel that for the vRS. And that is the big disappointment. Now, I do caveat everything that I've just said is that I'm in a fortunate position that I run a few cars within the garage. If I wasn't in that position and I had to have one car on a budget to do everything, family, commuting, fun at the weekend, do everything, practicality, cost of ownership, MPG, performance, school run, all that combined, all on a tight budget, then the vRS is absolutely got to be in your shortlist. The majority of these, 2,000-3,000, is the sort of the bulk. You just got to tread a little bit of caution. A lot of these now are a bit leggier. They're starting to suffer from corrosion. They've got a few problems, a lot on the high hundreds now in regard to mileage. But if you can bag yourself a good one, they are probably one of the best affordable hot or warm hatches that you can get. And so I may not have had that love for the car like I have some of the other cars. And for me, my love of cars means I want to continue to rotate. I want to continue to see, feel, drive, experience, own other cars on my journey. I'm not one that necessarily shows dedication to a particular car unless it grabs me, something like my Mark 1 MX-5. And I've done everything I wanted to. I think I've packed in 9 months of vRS ownership brilliantly. It's done the daily commute. It's done the supermarket. It's done the daily chores. It's been up and down the country doing long drives on the motorways. I've done road trips into Wales for vRS group. I've done group tests with other hot hatches, Fiesta ST, Clio 182. So I've done, I think, everything that I wanted to do in the vRS. And I think now is the time. I'm ready. I'm ready to move on into the next journey of whatever will follow on. Every car in the garage needs to serve a purpose, from the Roadster to the hot hatches to the 4-doors to the coupes to the SUVs. And it's up, the vRS unfortunately has been up against some pretty stiff competition in the garage, because I still own the Clio 182 and I still own the Megane RS 250, both some of the very, very best hot hatches. But it doesn't take away from the memories that the vRS has served and how I've loved the car. But anyway, there we go. It's time to move on. It's time to go sell, hopefully, and move on to the next chapter, the next car, and which will hopefully come in 2024, and the journey that I go on as an owner of these affordable sports cars in the Fast and Fun garage. So there we go. From a very, very cold Gloucestershire, from the Fast and Fun garage. As always, I hope you've enjoyed it. If anyone's got any thoughts about what car should follow on next, and I don't really mind yet, I've got a few ideas, and I don't care if it's 4-door or coupe or roadster or hatch or SUV, I don't care, as long as there's a bit of fast in there, there's a bit of fun in there, and there's a bit of affordability in there. Drop your thoughts below. Can't wait to read them. Follow me on the journey. If you enjoy the video, as always, thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned. Another video next week. Thanks for watching, guys.